Good afternoon, everybody. So today, this morning, we were learning from Chapter 2, Lesson 4, Part 1. Okay, so in Part 1, we learned how to write a percent that's less than 1 as a decimal and fraction. So we went from percent to decimal to fraction. You could also go from percent to fraction and then decimal, but this was the strategy that we learned. So we were given our percent, and then to get our decimal, what we did, and I don't think I explained this correct the first time, but what we did was we just divided this percent by 100. So when we divided this percent by 100, this decimal moves to the left 2 spots. So it makes 2 jumps to the left when you divide 0.48 by 100. If you try putting that into your calculator, you're going to get this decimal. So that's why we're able to move it to the left 2 spots. Okay, and then from our decimal, we were able to get our fraction, and then right here, this is just the simplified work that we did to get our simplified fraction. Okay, so that was a quick review of Part 1. Right here is Part 2, so I'm just going to write that here, Part 2. Okay, so in Part 2, what we're going to do is write a percent greater than 100 as a mixed number and a decimal. So here we were dealing with percents less than 1. Here we're going to deal with percents greater than 100, and you can just do this on the same note paper that you were writing this on earlier. So let's imagine that we had the percent 350. So if we have the percent 350, okay, first thing we're going to do is to put this percent into a fraction. So this is just one of our strategies. I just want to start with putting it into a fraction. So I'm going to rewrite the percent up here. 350% equals what fraction? Well, if we review what a percent is, a percent just means out of 100. So I have this number, 350, out of 100. So the way I say it is the way I'm going to write it. 350 out of 100. Okay, so that's my fraction. Now that I have my fraction, all I want to do is simplify this. Because remember, any fraction we have, we need to simplify. So something I notice about these two numbers is that 50 goes into both of them. And I'm just noticing what these two numbers have in common, one of their common factors, so that I can simplify. Okay, so I'm going to divide both by 50. And you can use your calculator for this. So 350 divided by 50, you're going to get 7. And 100 divided by 50 is 2. So my fraction is 7/2. Now, I want to put this into a mixed number. Okay, you're going to notice your math book, it's going to ask you to either change these percents into fractions or mixed numbers. Since this is an improper fraction, we're going to change it into a mixed number. So to put this into a mixed number, I'm just going to determine or think to myself, how many times does 2 go into 7? And I can count using my hands. So 2 goes into 7, 2, 4, 6. So at least 3 times. It goes into 7 at least 3 times. So I'm going to put a whole number 3 there. And then to get to 7, I would have to add 1 to that 6. So that means I have 1 left over out of 2. So 3.5. Okay, that's my mixed number. Okay, and I just put mixed number at the top here so we all know what a mixed number looks like. Alright, so one more thing to add to this. I could have simplified this a different way. So I could have also said, how many times does 100 go into 350? And if I thought to myself, well, 100 goes into 350 at least 100, 200, 300, 3 times. So then, little arrow up there as a side note. So 100 goes into 350 at least 3 times. And then what I would have remaining is that 50 out of 100. And if I if I simplified 50 out of 100, divided both by 50, I would get 1/2. Sorry, it's getting a little busy here, but hopefully you guys can understand what we're doing. Over here, we're just showing a different way we could have came to the same answer, okay? So here I simplified at first by 50 and got 7/2, and then I turned this improper fraction into a mixed number. Here I simplified a little differently, and I still ended up getting 3/2, okay? So that is how we can go from a percent to a mixed number. Now, to go from a percent to a decimal, what we're going to do is use our fraction. So in our fraction, we have 350 out of 100. You can also use 7 out of 2. So what I'm going to do is just divide numerator by denominator. Okay, so I'm going to make a little arrow. I'm going to say to get decimal. Okay, we're just going to divide numerator by denominator. So I'm going to do 350 divided by 100. Okay, so if I do 350 divided by 100, my answer is going to be 3.5. All right, and that's my decimal. So the question asked us, says write a percent greater than 100 as a mixed number and a decimal. So we did write it as a decimal and we did write it as a mixed number. Okay, so we answered both parts that the question was asking us. Okay, so the last two things we need to do in this lesson is to learn how to write a mixed number as a percent. And then there's one other thing after that, which I'll tell you in a minute or two. But go ahead and write this down. I already have it written down on my paper. So write a mixed number as a percent. And I tried dividing up the page a little bit so it's not as busy for us. Let's see if this space, what we have, will work. So our mixed number, let's use 9 and 3/4. Okay, so 9 and 3/4. So a mixed number is going to be a whole number with a fraction. I'm just going to grab my notes real quick. Okay, so mixed number is a whole number with a fraction. And first thing we're going to do is rewrite our mixed number over here. 9 and 3/4. And what I want to do in order to get this mixed number into a percent is to change it to an improper fraction. Okay, I don't want to deal with the mixed number, so I need to change it to an improper fraction. To do that, I'm going to make that mad face that we've seen before. Okay, so it looks like an arrow pointing upwards, and then we have a multiplication sign here and a plus sign here. Okay, so if we just look at that, it looks kind of like a upset, mad face. And this is going to help us remember how to convert a mixed number into an improper fraction. So first, we're going to multiply our denominator, multiply 4 times 9, okay? And then whatever we get when we multiply 4 times 9, we're going to add that to the numerator, all right? So 4 times 9 is 36, plus 3, you get 39, and then always over our denominator. Okay, so we just converted this mixed number to an improper fraction. Now we are going to convert this improper fraction into a percent. So let's review real quick what a percent is, and I know we've talked about it before. A percent is something out of 100. So if we want this to look like it needs to be out of 100, let's just make that over here. So we have something out of 100. So now this kind of goes back to rates and ratios. We need to figure out how this 4 gets to 100. And whatever we do down here, we're going to do the same up here. So if you don't know what 4 times something is to get 100, you can always go in the reverse direction and divide 100 divided by 4. But I think if we did 4 times 25, we would get 100. Okay, it's kind of like counting quarters. How many quarters go into $1? So I'm going to do the same thing up here. 39 times 25. Okay, 39 times 25 is going to be 975. Alright, so now I have something out of 100. I have 975 out of 100. So that means I have 975%. Okay? And that's how you write a mixed number as a percent. First, you need to change the mixed number to an improper fraction. Then it needs to be something out of 100. And then you can get your percent. Okay. The very, very, very last thing that we are going to do is to write a decimal as a percent. So write a decimal as a percent. Okay. So the decimal that we are going to use, let's use 2.64. Okay, so 2.64, we want to put that decimal into a percent. So I'm going to rewrite that up here. 2.64. When I'm trying to write my decimal as a percent, the only thing I need to do is multiply this decimal by 100. Okay, and I'll explain that in a second. But 2.64 times 100 will give us our percent. So if you do that in your calculator, 2.64 times 100, you will get 264. So then we can just turn that into a percent. So 264%. Okay? Don't forget your percent sign. And the reason we can do this is if we had, let's say we had 264%, and I wanted to turn this back into a decimal. Okay, so 264%. A percent is something out of 100. So if I do 264 out of 100, and I have my fraction, to get my decimal, I just need to do 264 divided by 100 in my calculator, and you get 2.64. Okay? So that's why it works when we multiply 100 by whatever our decimal is. Because it's a nice shortcut, okay? 2.64 times 100 gives us 264%. But this is one of the reasons why. Because if we started off with the percent, turned it into a fraction, and then divided it in our calculators, we end up with the same answer. So that's why it works. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions in class. Your homework today is to finish pages 120 and 121.